Hello, everyone. Welcome to Prep Your School Year for Success. There is the bit.ly to join the slide deck. So I'm going to just give everyone a little bit of time to make sure that you access the slides and you are ready to go. Okay, so if you have missed the slides, they are in the chat. So again, in the chat is the bit.ly link to get the slides to make sure that you are ready to prep your school year for success. We're going to learn some ways that we're able to balk plan and get some tasks ready to go for next year. So when we're looking at next school year, there's some things that we're able to do and kind of think about when we are getting ready, and what are some things that we're able to maybe take away from our plate throughout the middle of the year, or to make things maybe run more streamlined and just kind of support our students and our parents maybe a little bit better. Or maybe you're an admin and maybe you are a instructional coach, just thinking about different ways that, again, you're able to streamline your school year and to get that prep ready. So that way there's some things out of your way and you have those templates created. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm Stephanie Howe. I'm a podcaster, a YouTuber, and an author. One thing I always like to tell people is I am an oversharer. So there are times where I do overshare, and this is probably one of them. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, just know that this video is recorded. You can come back to it and you're able to rewatch at any time. And my life-changing moment was in Sydney, Australia. So in Sydney, Australia, I learned so much information. I went to the Google office. I learned about imposter syndrome, and I still struggle with it today, but not as bad as I used to. And I've also just learned so much different information through Google and the people that I have met along the way. And so I just love sharing that experience because for me, that really did change my career. And I learned so much from different educators and different ways that they also prep for the school year to kind of save that stress when it comes August. Because I don't know about you, but when August comes, I am so overwhelmed and just extremely stressed out. So hopefully we can kind of ease some of that stress away. If you are not a part of the Gold EDU group, I highly suggest that you join us. Some of the resources from today's session, you will need to join, or it's going to ask you to request access. So I'm going to throw this link in the chat. It's on slide number 3 if you are on the slides, and you'll just click this link. And once you click this link, it's going to take you to this Google group. Yours is going to say join up here. You'll join. And once you join, you can either decide to get all of these amazing emails and resources this group shares. If you have a question, you can ask them, and you'll probably get 10 different emails or different templates or responses about an idea or problem that you're facing. But if you want to control those emails, because I do know there is a lot, you can go into group settings and you are able to, or membership settings, and you're able to change your subscription. Hi, Ryan. We're so glad you're joining us. I hope you have your name tag on because Ryan's name tag is amazing. Please add that name tag link in the chat, Ryan, so other people can buy it. I really hope you have your name tag on. So once you've joined that group, you should have access to a lot of the material. And yes, Ryan is a member of Gold EDU, and he is a great member. He's been sharing a lot of resources and ideas with other members. So it's a way to problem solve education together and really think about different struggles and know that you don't have to be alone in facing them. Okay, so why bulk plan? And why bulk plan for the start of the school year? So when we bulk plan, it actually improves efficiency, and it also helps us better communicate. It allows us to be more productivity and have enhanced that ability. It also allows us to improve in accountability. So this is kind of the reasons why this bulk planning and being ahead of the game for August is really important. So when we are bulk planning, I don't know if you know this, but I have been struggling with this kind of issue. And what I was doing is I was multitasking. And then I went to this session that ISTE offered, and it was all about monotasking. And I went on this huge kick. I bought these really cool timers right here. And what you do is you time block your time. And on these timers, I don't know if you can see, I have 60 minutes, 50 minutes, 30 minutes, and I just turn it on. And now my timer is going for 50 minutes. Or nope, I have 30 minutes, and now it's going for 30 minutes, and so on. And so I bought these timers off of Amazon after this ISTE webinar on monotasking. And what she was saying is you can't multitask. And I always was like, I'm the best multitasker there is. Like, this lady doesn't know anything. Yeah, we really can't multitask. There's certain tasks that we can do that are kind of low cognitive, like walking the dog and maybe listening to a podcast. Now, yeah. But when it comes to getting real work done, you are not really able to. And so she taught me this word monotasking. And what it means is avoiding interruptions. And so what I have done is I will set timers now for 30 minutes, and I will put my phone away and I will work on whatever I'm working on for a full 30 minutes, and I won't task switch. So what task switching is when you open up a new tab and you're like, oh, I am going to send an email. And what would happen is I would open up my next tab and I would be like, oh, I need to send an email. But then I spend 30 minutes on Twitter, right? And I'm like, I just got on my computer to send an email, right? And it was kind of a hot mess. So what I really learned from that ISTE session was this monotasking word. And so when it comes to monotasking, it's focusing on one task and setting a timer. So you're blocking your time out. And also what I like to do is I like to do a brain dump. So before I start monotasking, I will do a brain dump. And TCA shared some of these templates on Twitter that were just amazing. And I'm going to add them to the slide deck because I just realized I don't really have them in there. And what this does is I made them digital, but honestly, I usually just do them on a Post-it note. And what happens with this brain dump is, which is right here, you are to write every single thing down that you have to do. So think of everything that you're supposed to do. And again, in August, as a teacher or as an educator, you have to do a lot of different things to make sure that the school year is going to be successful. And so based on that brain dump, then I go into, okay, what are my top 3 things I need to do? What's the easy 3 that I can quickly check off my list and feel some accomplishment on? What's the next 3 that I can do? There's other templates on here where you could split them up by the day. You could do high priority to low priority. You could do what we have. Like if you're doing this for grocery shopping, here's what we have. Okay, here's our breakfast options, lunch, dinner. Because I don't know about you, but I'm always like, Kevin, my husband, we don't have anything to eat. And then I'm like, let's go out to dinner. And he's like, no, we have tons of food, right? You can have a to-do and a done list where you kind of move these things over. And again, creating this list can just kind of help you organize your brain, organize your thoughts, and what you kind of need to focus on. I just added, Ryan, the brain dump slides on slide 5. Is it not open? There we go. See if you have access now. Is it working now? Yes, okay, I think so. So again, that first step that I want you to do before August is to take a piece of paper, take your Post-it notes, take a template that I just shared, and write down all of your things that you have to get done for August. Okay, so just do a brain dump of everything that you need to do. That's the first step. Then what you need to do is you need to think of your procedures. So if you're a classroom teacher, we have this word, and it's called, even anybody in education, any person, I feel like, it's called decision fatigue, where you constantly have to answer all of these different questions and different things. And so as a teacher, again, while you're kind of thinking through this is a procedures. And when you're thinking about procedures, you might have different procedures in your classroom. Sometimes your procedures might be really strong and they might just work out. Other procedures, you need to create one or work on it. And so when it comes to these SOPs, you might want a procedure for, let's see, when you're stuck. So these are all kind of pain points that teachers have ever experienced in my school district. And we continuously add more as we have new problems. And so, for example, when students are stuck, I have a lot of kids just acting out, or they're just not following along. And so what I will do is with this template is there's a video that kind of walks through this slide, because there's so many different SOPs that you're kind of able to explore. And when you go through these, it has some questions. So what questions can I ask to help students figure out what do they already know? What's their prior knowledge? So these questions are for you as an educator to reflect on. So when students are stuck, what am I even asking them? Or am I just telling them the answer? What am I doing? So reflecting on that piece. What language can I maybe use to help students solve problems? Is there certain misconceptions or misunderstandings that my students are going to have? Can I predict those ahead of time? And so right now is the perfect time, as maybe you're ending your school year or you have ended your school year, and thinking about this past school year. What was the worst pain point for you as a classroom teacher? Or maybe you're not a classroom teacher and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a technology coach and I had a lot of issues with this. Well, what procedure can you put into place so that way you don't have that decision fatigue, and that way you're able to really think through all of the different things? So when it comes to students who are stuck, this resource has, maybe you use a Google form. So when it comes to this Google form, students will fill it out when they get stuck, and they can ask you a question. They can say, I have to use the restroom, or maybe they have a technology issue. And then they can tell you things that they've tried, and they can ask you their question. And then you're able to use the Google Sheet that is created from this, and you're able to kind of follow along and highlight as you check in with students or tell them that, yes, you can use the restroom. So there's multiple things that you're able to do there as students use that bathroom. Another thing with this SOP activity is then kind of thinking through, maybe I'm not a spreadsheet person, and that's okay. You could use Classroom Q. You could set up a waiting room type style that is kind of without technology, where students have these paper clips and they then pull a number, and then you are now serving student number one. So you're like at the BMV and you are ready to now serve that number one student. Or maybe you're ready to serve number three, and that student can come up and get their questions asked. So a lot of different resources here on how you can support your students. There might also be those misconceptions that you constantly know about, right? And so if that's the case, there could be a tech support. So when we're looking at tech support, we can train our students, or maybe train our teachers if you're a coach or you're a technology director, and you can say, have you hit refresh? Have you turned it on and off yet? Have you updated? If you've done all three of those things, now you can see a techie, or you can see a teacher, or you can go to our media center to do that tech, the help desk ticket. So having that procedure right in place makes things really smooth, and it allows your students to access different material, and they begin to be able to problem solve without you, and you don't have that decision fatigue. So again, right now is the perfect time. Reflect on that past school year. Think about what was a pain point for you and what can you do to make it a little bit better. And this resource right here, again, it's called the SOP resource pack. You just go in and you're like, oh my gosh, group work was awful this year. My students didn't get along. Start creating procedures and activities for them to learn how to work together with a group. Or perhaps maybe getting students' attention was a struggle. They just talked over you. You're able to review this resource. So this resource is kind of personalized, but you've got to be able to reflect back on your needs. And then from there, go in and explore the resources to know what you need to be successful for this upcoming school year. Okay, so now that we've kind of talked about monotasking and procedures, we're going to now walk through just some common things that most people need in order to be successful for the start of the year. So when it comes to that start of the year, Google Sheets is going to become your best friend. So when it comes to Google Sheets, you might want to roster different details. So when you're rostering, you might want to be able to have an information database where it has students' names, students' emails, maybe their parent emails, birthdays, if they're in band 504, any of those different things. And it might look something like this. And so again, I would replace this with my students, actual students that I have. If I teach multiple students throughout the day, I might change where it says snapshot. I might change this to class 1, class 2, class 3. So it's all in one spreadsheet. And then right here where it says parent's name, I can add all of this information right when I get that information. And yes, it is a lot, but you're bulk planning. So then later, when I need something, I can come in here and I can grab all the parent emails and I can quickly send them an email throughout the school year. I don't have to go in and again, type every single email. I have them already in one space. If you want to get really fancy with this, you could send home a Google form and have the parents fill it out. And then it will create a spreadsheet. And again, you're able to go in, copy, paste these emails, and pop them into an email throughout the year for your newsletter. So think smarter. And again, it might take some time for the setup, but once you get these in here throughout the entire rest of the year, when you're sending emails, you just pop open this spreadsheet, you copy and paste all these emails to that email, and you can send it off. You're also able to come in here and you can quickly see what your students might need as well. I can do birthdays and I can celebrate their birthdays and see maybe how old they are and really, again, celebrate that student. Another thing when it comes to Google Sheets is a hub. And there's a whole video on a hub. I could speak probably a whole session on this. That's why I did a whole nother session on a hub. And when it comes to a hub, this there's always those like arguments. There was one just yesterday or today on Twitter about grid view versus list view. There's always those arguments, right? And I am a grid view person, but I also cannot live without my hub. And so when it comes to a hub, this is design kit number 1. This is like your mild kit. And what you're able to do is you just type in these different categories and then you hyperlink the documents underneath. We have a hub for almost everything in our district. Our principals will have a hub and then they will link important documents under each of these different areas. So for example, safety drills. They will link the fire drill, tornado drill, all of the different drills. If there is any information on the faculty, there's information there. Everything is just easy to find in this one place because the shared with me drive is a hot mess. So this is design kit number 1, where you have like one template where you're able to customize. This might be number 2, where you have a Google Sheet and then these headers are in Canva. So you create these headers in Canva and then you upload the image. Same functionality as this sheet, but it's just a little prettier. And then this one right here is just another one where you would have another Canva with these labels. So these labels are really, again, helpful. If you want these resources over here is the sized out hubs already for you to go, and you just get to design and recreate. This can take a few hours to days because you just get so into hyperlinking everything. So just a warning. But again, we have a hub for our principals. We have hubs for curriculum resources, but it makes things really easy to find and use in our own classrooms. And so when I am looking over my resources, I'm going to kind of show you my hub. And I kind of think of it as the hub of hubs because it has hubs within hubs. And so here's my hub. And you can see down here, I'm still working on it for the next year. But this is what I use this school year. So I put the date down here, and I'm just going to probably hide it once I'm done with it. I went ahead and copied it, and I unlinked things because some of these are going to have new hubs. So here are all of like the master schedules. I'm an instructional coach, and I'm in 5 different buildings. So because I'm in 5 different buildings, I work with 5 different buildings of teachers. And I need to be able to quickly click and get their master schedule in case I want to work with a teacher and I don't need to play phone tag of like, I can meet this day, but I can't meet that day. I can't meet, back and forth. And so I just have all of their schedules right here so I can quickly access them. Then I have my building hubs. So again, all of my buildings have hubs. They have a principals hub. They have a Pickerington hub. We've got a math hub, a tech hub. We got all the hubs. So this is the hub of hubs. And I'm able to, again, click and I'm able to view that information. Again, I made a copy for this year so I can just hyperlink them as I get them. Because I'm in so many places, I'm able to then say like, oh, Harmon hasn't sent me their master schedule. I should probably check in on that. And this is also kind of like my to-do list. So I know what is still missing and what is ready to go. And then I can have my to-do list. So like, for example, I can go in and I can say like, I need to email new staff. And I can make that to-do list right here. And when I click this off, it will cross it off as well. And then I can come over here and I have all of my like templates for instructional resources. I have curriculum resources, just fun stuff like friend emojis. Like this template is really cool where I'm able to mix and match with different teachers. So if I come in here with Jenny and I can find my name, I have my friend emoji alongside with her. And so then it's just like, I don't need to email her. I can just use my own friend emoji and grab it with her and just pull it and go. So that saved me time as well, having that friend emoji resource. And then also I have these later to-dos. This is what I'm really excited about. So last year, again, this is that first time I ever created a hub. I'm going to duplicate this. And typically I do the same task every single year. So now when I need to email about updates, I already have that slide ready to go. I just need to maybe change the date and fix the little things. Or maybe I need to do different things as well. So when I am going in, I'm able to, again, really dive in to this to-do list and go, oh yeah, I sent that out in October. I should probably do that again. And everything is right here, ready to go. And I'm able to just quickly send that off to the staff. Like this one is a new staff email. Well, I can just make some updates and then it's ready to be able to send off to the new teachers. So that can be really helpful. So when I'm doing that as well, I like to kind of go back and say, oh, what did I do last year? Because I probably need to do it again. I keep track of my LPDC hours in here. I keep track of Alta hours and just links that I might need as well to update my hub. So hubs can be really great for the start of the year, but also throughout the year. So usually I tell people spend the first couple weeks, maybe if you're really getting into it, to get it organized and ready to go. And then the rest of your year, you're not searching that shared with me. You're able to find documents a lot faster. And because you have that to-do list, your whole next year is going to be a lot easier because you're going to be like, oh, here's that parent email I always send in August. And I can just send it off and I can just update it. Or here's the things that I use every year for Meet the Teacher. I even had a teacher that created their whole 6th grade curriculum hub where everything that they teach is in one hub as well. Grading. So the next area is grading. And what I have learned, and I've done this wrong for years, is there are times in students' lives that are really important to check in with them. So week 5, and week 7 in a grading period, we should be checking in with our students. And when I taught, I waited until week 7. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this kid has 27 missing assignments. What am I going to do? And so what I learned is that I needed to start checking in on my students at week 3. And I was able to start helping them get caught up. So then by week 7, almost towards that end of the quarter, when everything was due, it wasn't so much a stress. And so what happens is students will fill out, you'll want to make a copy of the Google slide, and there's a video that walks you through this. And when you make a copy of the Google Sheet, when you go in, the Google form will also copy. And so right here's this weekly check-in. I can change anything that I might need to change, but this is what students will fill out at weeks 3, 5, and 7. And then I meet with my team and we do a quick thumbs up, thumbs to the side, thumbs down. So thumbs up means they are awesome, they've got it, they are 100% good to go. Thumbs to the side, they need maybe a check-in. Thumbs down, they for sure need an advocate. And so who is that advocate? It goes in this column. And then we just check in on our students, because in junior high and middle school, if you're an elementary teacher, you can do this, but you're probably maybe by yourself, or maybe you have another teacher or an intervention specialist, or maybe you can use the counselor of who's going to check in on that student. But again, students need us checking in on them. So this system has really helped. And then I can also see patterns. So I can say, okay, we had 7, now we have an 11. So what is going on with this kid? Miss, how did you really advocate for this child or not? And we're able to kind of have those discussions and see what's going on with that student. So great way to keep them up to date and knowing what's going on. So I like to just get that ready over the summer so it's ready to go. Next is Google Calendar. So when it comes to Google Calendar, I like to set up a Google Calendar for just homework. So when I come in here, I can go in and I'm able to set up a whole new calendar that is just for homework. And if you use Google Classroom, it will auto create a calendar for you. So if I'm in Google Classroom, and once I'm in Google Classroom, and I go to this classroom right here, I can go under, I think it's classwork, and I can go right here to Google Calendar. It is going to pop open a calendar that goes along with this calendar. And then I can come in here and I can add important information. And I just want to make sure that I'm clicking that calendar on my list. And I then am able to add those important information and that important details for my parents. And then I can go into settings and I'm able to share this with parents so they can add it to their calendar, or they can just visit the web and they can see what's going on. And so if I send them this link, they'll be able to see everything that's kind of going on for my classroom when they need to do certain things or when I need to do things. And if they click this little plus sign down here, it's going to ask them to add it to their calendar. I already have it on mine, but a little pop-up would come up that says add it to their calendar. So that's a great tip. If you use Google Calendar or Classroom, then you have a Google Calendar that just goes with it. But again, creating that calendar and then sharing it with parents or with your students and teaching them how to time manage and use that resource can make it a lot better for you as well. And then events. I can add events on here. Maybe there's a football game, or maybe there is a banquet or something. I'm able to add that on to that calendar to let people know as well. I can also add parents. I can have a parent hub. So if you are so into hubs, you could create a parent hub, which some of my teachers have done, and you could just link it there so that the parents are able to access that link for the Google Calendar. I can also go in and I'm able to have a website. So when I have a website right here, my parents could have access to that calendar as well. So they can come in, there's a counseling resource, there's all of these different things. And all they did was they used Google Sites to create this. And then they were able to post in here their weekly homework calendar, their schedule for the week. and all of these different resources. So creating that resource for your parents can really help. So whether it's a hub or maybe it's a website, it can totally depend. And Ryan in the chat, I'm sorry I ignored you. Is my personal hub shared with anyone? My personal hub is not, because there's certain links that I just want access to. But if I was working with a team of teachers or there was 2 instructional coaches, I might share it with them. It just kind of depends on what your hub has in it and what it doesn't. But if you don't want all the links to be shared, you could just make it so they have to request access and keep them private. That could be an option for you. And everything should be in the slide deck. If you need access to something, you might have to join the gold group. So again, I'm going to put the slides in the chat in case anybody needs those. Okay, there you go. All right, so now we're looking at Gmail. So when we're looking at Gmail, some things that you can do to help you with the school year is you can first create a contact group. So when you're creating a contact group, these can help with newsletters. It can help when you have co-teachers and when you're trying to schedule emails. And so when you have maybe a newsletter, this is something that I like to do, is create kind of a slide with different templates. So I use the same kind of design for my newsletter. And I just change the month. And maybe you do a weekly one that you kind of want to decide as well, which option you want to do. And once I have all of my templates ready, I can just add information as I get going. Now, you don't want to copy it until you have all of the things that will never change ever again in there. So once my contact information is in here, duplicate it and then change the month. And then here's that friend emoji thing as well that kind of walks you through how to set that up. So right here is the Google form. And I send this home with parents. And it just asks them to share their emails with me because sometimes we use Infinite Campus. It's not up to date. Parents don't go in and update their emails sometimes. So I always ask them right here to kind of just fill this out so I know if they want to receive Google Classroom updates, what their phone number is, just so I make sure that I have the most up-to-date information. Texting, is it okay? We use talking points. So then I'm able to know if that's okay or not okay. And then what I do with these is, again, it comes to a Google Sheet. And on that Google Sheet, which is right here, I can go in, copy all of these emails. So just Command C, and I can either paste them to an email or I can go into Google Contacts, and I'm able to come in here and I can create a label, which is like a group, and I can call it Parents 2023, 2024. And then I can add all of those parents into this group. So I can create multiple contacts where I can paste all of their emails here, or I can just do one contact at a time. So again, I want to save time. I have them all in that spreadsheet. So I'm just going to do multiple of them from here. And then when I want to share them with my team, all I have to do is come here and I want to export. And I want to do maybe a Google CSV, and I can share this CSV with another teammate, and they can come in and they can upload theirs by going to that parent group. Multiple, and then they can also import those contacts this way. So if I'm working with a team of teachers, one teacher just has to put them in. Maybe you do like a rock, paper, scissors, or you pay them $20 to get all those emails in, and then they can download that spreadsheet and everybody can have access to that label. And then when you're emailing, you can type in those names to send an email to those parents. You can also, again, share with co-teachers. This video walks through how to kind of share with a co-teacher those contacts, just like what I walked through. But if you need it again, because I know that was super fast, or you're like, I'm not doing it right now, so I need it later. There's also different ways to schedule send emails. So if you're in email, you are able to go in and you're able to schedule send something, which is really great because sometimes I don't want to talk back and forth with a parent. I just want them to get my email and maybe move on with life, right? Like, you don't need to keep talking back and forth. And so sometimes I will schedule send an email so that way the parent can not respond right away. And maybe I don't want to be working outside of my working days, but I want to send an email at 10 o'clock. So again, scheduling send those emails can be another great way to organize your life. And then finally is students. So when we're talking about students, we need to train them to send emails to make our lives better. So what I like to do is at the start of the year, there's three things, is I like to have this roadmap. And with this roadmap, students learn how to write an email. So there's videos along the way. They have to check in. So after they open Gmail, are they really watching the videos? Because they need a teacher check. They have to show me that Gmail is open and ready to go. They learn how to create a signature, how to compose an email. They figure out who their audience is. They talk about what goes in the subject line. Then they get another teacher check. So after they do all of these videos, they're also doing it. They're starting to write a template kind of email or a test email. And then they are getting teacher checks along the way. Then they're doing a greeting, a message, ending with a closing, and then they're reviewing this checklist to make sure they have everything. It sounds professional, it's respectful, and the mechanics are correct. And then after that, they send the email for that final teacher check. And then if they finish, there's some can do options where they can create an email template. They can get organized. There's a video that they can learn how to organize Gmail, Drive, Google Classroom, or they might work on a different scenario. So maybe their family's on vacation and they need to get all their assignments in advance, or maybe the grade book shows that they have a missing assignment, or perhaps they have missed school because of the flu. And so they need to be able to advocate for themselves. And so this activity kind of walks through how to write an email, but then provides students some extension activities for them if they finish early, or if you want to add that extension on for your students. There's also this Google document. So you now, with this new Google update, are able to have students type an email in Google Docs. So this can be really helpful for your students. You can go in and I can create this list right here. And then I can share this with my students. So I can share this Google document in Google Classroom. My students just have to click this little button and it's going to open up Gmail. And then they can customize it and send it to their parents. So again, I'm typing it out here. They might just be customizing a little bit, and then it's actually going to be sent from my students. So I have a couple teachers that make their students send home the weekly newsletter. They've taken that off their plate. It's now on the kids. But what the teacher will do is they will start a Google Doc with, this week I need to complete one lesson in both math and reading. I also have the following graded work. So the teacher goes in, she can create this, but then the kids are responsible to send it to their parents. And then sometimes it depends on how much you trust your students. You might CC your teachers like yourself or other teachers on the team, and then have the students kind of email back and forth with their parents, and you get to see that that child is not going to soccer or something because they don't have all of their work done. So again, students can come in here and they can say, okay, I've already done this, so I can delete that off. And then you can kind of check and be like, you didn't complete this, so then you can email back as well. So that's another great tip for students to kind of start creating their ownership. This is very similar. It's an end of the week reflection. And so what happens is students will fill out their favorite things about the week, how they were a hero. They're able to choose their emotion. They can then choose something that they'd like to change for next week, and then the main reason for their rating. And then they can send this off to their parents, and their parents are able to see real quick how the child is doing. I have a team of teachers that send this home every single Friday, and the parents love it. The teachers love it because, again, they're taking off some of that ownership and some of that weight and giving it on to the students, because students are very capable and they are able to send these emails. Again, this is middle school level, but I've also done it with fourth grade students as well. But I think you could start to build up some of your younger students too if you have younger students. Okay, so now classroom management. So when we're starting off the year, again, getting as much as we can off of our plate is going to be really important. And so when we're thinking about how do I get these things off of my plate and organize, there are a few things. So when it comes to Unit 0, Unit 0, I found out about this through the Modern Classrooms project. Unit 0 is amazing and such a lifesaver. And so when it comes to Unit 0, there are levels. And so this level, students learn how my lesson is structured. Using Unit 0, it's like a self-paced model. Students watch an instructional video, so I'm freed up to meet with other students or small groups or work one-on-one with a student. And then also they complete different activities to show mastery. And so what students will do is right here, they have a video on how to kind of walk through this template and how they're going to walk through this roadmap for their learning for the year. After students do that, then they go on and they test their knowledge with an online game. Then they find their tracking piece, which is just the shape tool. And you would be surprised at how many kids love the lightning bolt. They always pick this icon as their tracking. And then there's also that teacher check. What motivates you is a great way as well. This is from one of my behavior friends. And on slide number 6, there's a bunch of assessments, but on slide number 6, it's called the forced choice. And what happens with the forced choice assessment is you figure out what motivates your students or other adults. And so when your students are doing this assessment, it's kind of like a would you rather. So again, you're going to make a copy of the Google Sheet because it has a ton of formulas that are happening behind the scenes, thanks to my friend Luis. And what happens then is you go in and you go to manage form. This is your form once you make a copy. And you don't really want to change any of these questions, but it's like a would you rather question. So which one would you pick? A teacher writes 100 on your paper, or to be the first to finish your work? Which one would you pick? A bag of chips, or your classmate asks you to be on their team? So students will complete these 40 questions. Typically, I go through with them and I read the questions and explain some of the ones that they might be kind of struggling with or thinking about. And then what happens is students receive a score that looks something like this. So this child is adult approval. And what shocked me the most after using this is I thought that all of my kids were going to be consumables. They love Jolly Ranchers. So I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to buy a ton of Jolly Ranchers. And that wasn't the case. A lot of times students are motivated by their peers or adult approval. And so I needed to think about, am I sending letters home? Am I doing all of these different things? And working with Tara, we created kind of like a reward board to kind of help. Am I giving them praise? Am I giving them detailed positive feedback? Am I celebrating them? Am I doing maybe a TikTok with the teacher? Or maybe they're competitive rewards. Do we have a leaderboard? Do we have a way for them to earn badges? Are they going to lunch and they're sitting by a friend? So thinking about what motivates a child and then using that to reward them became a huge piece of my classroom that I started to implement in August as well. So that was another great piece. And then after that, we went into where do we find material? So students knew exactly where material was in my classroom. I had bins where they could get papers, and then I kind of walked through on level 2 my digital space as well with Google Classroom. And then on this one, I walked through how do you even watch a video? Because a lot of times students, when I play a video, they won't even turn on their headphones. And it was really, really frustrating. And so we walk through, how do you watch a video? How do you take notes? How do you start to advocate for your own learning, and teaching them that ownership skills, which takes a lot of time up in August and September, but students will excel and go beyond your expectation if you teach them these executive functioning skills early on, because then the rest of the year it makes it a lot easier and they're going to be a lot more independent and successful. So again, having this unit 0, and then I would provide students with 1.3. The goal is to get to level 1.3. If you do that, you can work on the can-do options, or you can maybe get ahead of pace. It just kind of depended on the day and where we were at. And then I could go over like a mini lesson or some clarification, because I always made a mistake when I sent it out, this roadmap. My students that were ahead of pace would say like, Miss Howe, you didn't understand, or you didn't make sense when you did this or whatever. And so then I would make a video that was a lot better and I could explain it to my students. And then again, here's that SOP hub for you to also review. Again, this is huge to have those procedures in place for your classroom management. It's going to help with that decision fatigue. It's also going to help you think through common problems that you're having in your classroom. And then executive functioning. So here is another huge issue when you're kind of thinking about students. And I want you to think about a student. So when you're thinking about that student, maybe they're lazy, maybe they're stubborn, messy. What is this one word that drives you crazy about the student that you had this past year? So for me, I'm going to use my son. He's stubborn. He is extremely stubborn. He's 3 years old. It's his way or the highway. He won't do anything unless it's his idea. So we're working through some things. And what happens is oftentimes we're focused on this negative descriptor of these students. But what executive functioning is it's a skill. We can teach these students these things to help them overcome different barriers in their life. And so I love this graphic. So my son, he's stubborn. So I could work on goal directed or flexibility to help that student really become better. And again, he's not very flexible, so I can work on that skill. Maybe he's messy. We can work on organization. And so with executive functioning, there's a video here, resource for you if you're interested. But there's a test. And so again, with the test, it goes through all the different executive functioning skills, and you're able to see where students are really showing weakness in. And when they are showing that weakness, you're able to go in, and then you can go in and use these different strategies to cater your instruction to really support those students. So maybe it is organization. Well, here's a video on, okay, Google, organize my life, and they can learn how to use Google to organize their life. Or maybe it's response inhibition. There's some strategies right here to help that child pause and think before they speak. So again, there's a lot of resources here, but you have to know first, what is it that is driving me crazy about that child? And you can use these descriptors here and then kind of see what they're paired with. Or you can give your students this assessment. Or I have teachers that just they give the assessment, they look over their data, and then they do many lessons on all of these different executive functioning skills to really support students. And again, using these skills at the start of the year is going to make the rest of the year a lot better, because you're creating that student ownership in your classroom. And then planning. So when you're planning your lessons, again, map out your year. Every 4 weeks, block plan. And then again, that monotasking. So we talked about monotasking at the start of the year or start of the session. And what that again means is working on one task at a time. Okay, so working on that one task at a time. And this slide deck I actually do with students, and I walk through what monotasking is. And I talk about this server because servers are really good at monotasking, which it might not seem like it, but a lot of times, I don't know if you've had that waitress that will take your order and they just remember it. They remember your order and you're like, they didn't even write it down, but it comes out right every single time. And I'm like, you're going to get wrong. You're going to get wrong, but it always comes out right. And so what happened is this researcher was so interested in that. Like, why is it that waitresses can remember what we order? And so she went back in this restaurant and she asked her, like, what did I order? And the waitress couldn't remember. And if you think about this, I don't know if there's anyone out there that you have to make your bed every morning. I had to make my bed every morning. And I realized why, because it kept nagging in my brain that my bed wasn't made. Or the laundry, your laundry's not put away. Your laundry's not put away. Your laundry's not put away. And it kept nagging at my brain, and it was taking up this space in my brain until I did it and got rid of that task. And so what monotasking is, again, it's taking up space in your brain. And so that's why creating those lists, creating those to-do lists, putting things on post-it notes is so important, because then you're getting that space out and you're able to allow that space to be taken up by things that really does matter. And then again, that task switching really slows us down when we are going in between different tasks and different things like that. It can be, again, very, very difficult to do that. And then what we do is a crazy eights. So I ask students this is the problem, right? We're multitasking, we're doing all these things. We need 8 different ideas to come up with different things to do. And so here are these boxes. And what students do is they brainstorm, and I set a timer for 30 seconds per box. 30 seconds, they draw or write their idea for how we're going to stop these interruptions. And then we pause for 10 seconds and we do it again. Pause for 10 seconds, do it again. Pause for 10 seconds and again, and again, and again, and again, and again. And then what happens is, usually by this box, students are like, I have no more good ideas. Well, write down your worst idea. And we're creating that great space for students to really think and become active in their learning as well. And then we talk about, after we discuss their crazy eights, we talk about their interruptions and brain dumping, color coding, organizing, and prioritizing. And then from there, students actually practice. They practice using Google Keep. They practice using Google Calendar, maybe a paper, maybe other ideas. And then we ask them, like, if they're ready to just kind of try some of these activities, and they have to do some hands-on tasks to work on monotasking. So again, when you are bulk planning, Amanda asked in the chat if there was a curriculum map. And yeah, our district has a curriculum map. I can see if I can share it. I need to see. But what happens with bulk planning is, typically in my own classroom, I would take that map and then I would spend either a whole day, and I usually try to do it by 9 weeks, and I would just map out. I would grab a calendar and I would write down what I was going to teach when. So that really does take off a lot of the load when you are trying to prep for the year. Before the sub shortage, our district used to give us subs that we could kind of use for bulk planning. That's not the case right now, but you could also maybe ask. I know our district is struggling with subs, so I don't know if that's every district, but that could maybe be an option for you as well. Or if you can, take like a weekend and just kind of bulk plan. But again, the more time you can spend and get in the flow of something, the better. And then Google Classroom. So ensuring that you have best practices when you're setting up your Google Classroom. There's just some things that you're able to do. I like to have a resource page. I like to think how I'm going to organize my Google Classroom. Am I going to do units, weeks? What type of assignments? How do I want to organize that Google Classroom? Again, using emojis to help students visualize and see what is going on and what they kind of need. So if there's a check mark, it means maybe a resource. If there's that popcorn, it's a video. If it's books, there's maybe a reading. And then having those clear naming protocols. I like to use numbers. So again, I like to maybe put 83 and then what it is. And then I can tell my students, find number 84. And if students use Command F, they can type in here like the word, and it will pop up. You can see here assignments is popping up 15 times, and I am able to quickly find it by using that Command F. And I like to teach my students that shortcut so they know exactly what to do. And then also accessing material independently, creating those routines, practicing having students find the material, maybe playing Fast and Curious, which is an Edu protocol. So Fast and Curious, I was having a group of second graders take 10 minutes to log into Google Classroom. And the teacher was about to give up on me and be like, we're not using Google Classroom at all. And so we did Fast and Curious, where the students had every single day to log into Google Classroom, and they were timed. And so what we did is I took their time and I wrote it down on Monday. It took 10 minutes. Well, on Tuesday, though, it took 8 minutes. So we took 2 minutes off. So that was an improvement. And then on Wednesday, we went down to maybe 7 minutes, where Thursday, we were now down at 5 minutes. And Friday, the kids got down to 2 minutes. So they're getting better and they're getting faster. And just showing that teacher that they were getting better and faster allowed her to not give up either. And so when we can do this with our students, I use Fast and Curious for vocab as well, where students will have a vocab list, and on Monday they might score 60%, but then by Friday they're at the 100%, 90% area. So it can be great. This has also helped with student ownership too. And then here is a to-do list. So this is the final resource I'm going to share with you today. I know, again, I'm an oversharer. So focus on one thing that you can take away to get better for next school year. And again, I'm going to put the link to the slides in the chat. This to-do list is just a way to kind of help you organize and think through, okay, physical space, am I ready to go? Digital space, and so on. And so then I'm able to really focus in on that list and what I need to get done for the school year. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I'm going to bring Ryan on the screen. Hi, Ryan.
What?
I said you're on live. How's it going?
I'm like, what? Hey, everybody's very impressed with how much you work on this.
Yeah, it's a lot. So this is recorded. If you need anything, also, you can reach out to me. I'll put my information up on the screen. Feel free to email me. Feel free to reach out on Twitter. And I also have a podcast too, if you're interested in learning more of how to control the chaos with your classroom. I do it with my friend Tara, who's that behavior person, and I'm that tech person, and we're able to really think through common problems in education and work through them.
Also, several of your presentations didn't have viewer access for the.
Okay, I'll go in and check them.
No. If there were people not sure, so you had to request that.
Yeah.